Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Cat's Track. Thank you for subscribing, liking, and sharing this with your friends. Today's episode is with our friend, Chris Slubicki. Chris was born in Toronto, Ontario. Both of his Polish parents immigrated 2 years earlier. Chris tells me that he has two wonderful parents who started with nothing, yet did everything for him and his sister. He also has fantastic, smart, fun, and beautiful wife whom he would remarry in a nanosecond after 27 years of marriage. Who can say that? That's so awesome.
I can.
And they have two great kids. It's great. Besides Chris's loved ones, he is passionate about all types of energy, the next generation, and our amazing country. Check out his YouTube talks if you've not seen them already. Friends, you'll find his full bio attached. Chris, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thank you for thinking of me.
Oh, yeah, you're on my list from the beginning. I'm looking forward to
you said that to everybody.
No, I don't actually. No, I'm looking forward to this. Thank you for taking time.
My pleasure.
Are you ready for the questions we sent your way?
I am ready.
Okay, so your biggest challenge in the last several months?
I found that just answering that question was a big challenge because I have to count myself fortunate. My wife and I are healthy. My kids are healthy. And, certainly it's been an unusual few months, but, we haven't been able to see our daughter who lives in Halifax, and she hasn't been able to come here. We haven't seen her since last Christmas. Won't see her this Christmas. We can't visit my mother who lives in Toronto. She's in a senior's home. She's 91, fully fit and fully mentally capable, still 100%. So it's frustrating, but in the scale of what's going on, I would call those frustrations. So I find what I spend most of my time thinking about and what bothers me and is the same thing that bothered me pre-COVID, during COVID, and after COVID. And that is, as a passionate Canadian and a passionate Albertan, it's the relentless attack on our natural resources, and it's become such a polarized argument, either natural resources or technology and the environment. And why not both? We can do that. There's nothing that can kickstart our economy faster post-COVID than natural resources. So why is it such a consistent attack on them? We have the capability to develop natural resources and do it well. We're world leaders at it in every regard. So let's do that, and let's do it with environmental responsibility, and let's develop technology at the same time. We can do all these things. I don't understand why it's become such a regional and such a polarized argument. We can do better than that.
I agree. And coming from the oil and gas industry myself, I remember and still recall that there's parts of the world that come to us to look at our standards and regulations. So I always find it quite curious myself.
I spent a good part of my career in investment banking, and we had offices in many energy centers around the world: Calgary, Denver, Houston, Buenos Aires, Singapore, London, and wherever I went, Canada and Canadians were in those countries and neighboring countries around there in the energy industry, teaching people how to develop resources responsibly. And of course, they came here to Calgary to learn how to regulate and to develop resources responsibly. It was only here at home where people told me how awful we were at it. Yeah,
I agree with you. Thank you, Chris. What about the three things that you have to say to us today?
Well, my first one, and I really like speaking to young people, because whenever I speak to young people, I leave positive and enthusiastic because they're so smart and keen, and you forget just how keen and ambitious you are when you're 18 or 20 or 22. So my comments maybe are directed a bit at younger people, but my first one would be count your good fortune. In your case and mine, we're Calgarians, we're Albertans, we're all Canadians. Whenever I speak, I say to people that the day you immigrate to or are born in Canada, you have won the lottery of life.
Yeah.
What you do with it after that, that's up to you. But the freedoms we have, the standard of living we have, the opportunities we have, the beauty of the land, the amount of space we have is unattainable virtually anywhere else in the world. And when I say that after my talks, the people that come up to me and respond to that are the immigrants. And I don't care where they come from, anywhere in the world. they come up to me after and they say, boy, did I ever agree with your comment about being a Canadian? They say, a lot of my friends who were born and raised here, they have no idea. And it's true, we're so fortunate here. We have it all. We assume everybody does. And of course, that's anything but the case. So, and I realize right now, many Canadians are going through some difficult times, whether it's loss of job, loss of business, loss of loved ones, these are all life-changing events. So it's not the best time in Canada, but best times or worst times, I'd rather be dealing with it as a Canadian. So my first message is let's count our blessings. Let's count our blessings. My second message, and those people who know me well know I love to read biographies and I love to quote people because they seem to be able to say in a sentence what takes me a paragraph to say. And so the first person I'll quote is Jim Gray, of course, a well-known, a legend here in Calgary of Canadian hunter fame. I went to a dinner about a year ago, I think it was last November, in Calgary, where he was recognized by the University of Calgary School of Public Policy for his work on public policy. And he spoke to the crowd, and one of his comments just hit me like a ton of bricks because I thought it is so precise, so accurate. He said, we must avoid allowing the size, complexity, and scale of the climate change issue to threaten the very foundation of our country for no material global benefit or reward. End of quote. And I thought, that's exactly it. Canada is 1.6% of global emissions. So even if we shut the country down, we would have a nominal effect on global emissions. And of course, all that productivity and would just move to other countries. So the net gain to the planet would be likely zero or less as operations move to less environmentally regulated areas. And secondly, there would be no reward if we shut the country down. It's not like the rest of the world would say, hey, great Canada, we appreciate it. We'll take care of you. Don't worry about it. If we all lived in a cave, we'd get no benefit from the rest of the world. And I am in no way saying, let's not reduce emissions. I'm a big believer in reducing emissions. I think we have to reduce emissions. But let's have a rational conversation. Let's not vilify any industry, particularly the energy industry, which is a big part of where the solution lies. Let's start having a rational conversation and work to reduce emissions. But let's not destroy our country economically or just as a country, as a nation. And let's keep it all in perspective. We're 1.6%. We're trying to get down to 1.3%. We can do that, but let's have a rational discussion. Let's just all calm down a little bit. It's become such a polarized yelling match. Let's just all calm down and have a rational conversation. And my third thought, and again, it's a quote. And if you're going to be using quotes, you have to somewhere throw in Winston Churchill.
Aha!
One of the great speakers of all time.
Yes.
And he has a very famous line that when you find yourself going through hell, keep on going.
Keep on going. Yeah.
And, people are incredibly resilient. And I think we forget that at times, especially at times like this, where it feels like everything is just a burden and things get very, you listen to the news, it's all negative, it's all fear factor. And, again, you mentioned my parents at the beginning, Kat, and they're wonderful people. They lived through the war, and my parents are not unique. Millions and millions of people went through this. They went through the war. My father ended up in a POW camp. My mother was in a forced labor camp. They met after the war and immigrated to Canada for a better life. And, going through what they went through, which is infinitely worse than anything we're experiencing. And yet they went on to lead long, happy, very productive lives. We will get through this. We're going to be fine. Yes, this is a terrible time. It will pass. It's worse for some of them than others. And again, I'm not trying to discount or downplay the losses people have sustained, including loss of loved ones. But we will get through this. We're going through hell. Let's keep on going.
I love it. So profound. That's a good one. My dad always liked that one too.
Oh, I've got a whole book full of Winston Churchill quotes. I love good speakers, and he is truly a master.
Have you joined the society here in Calgary?
No, but I have been to a couple. I've been invited to the events a couple of times, and of course, I always enjoy it.
Yeah, good. And what about your good news, legacy, or opportunity story that you want to close with?
Well, I am an optimist, and so again, I kind of look to the young people, and I think my sort of closing message opportunity is it's time for a change in mindset. Our young generation lives in fear over climate change, and they've been very unnecessarily scared to death. I completely understand why they live in fear, but let's back the bus up and look at it from a broader, more historical perspective. Every generation faces big issues. My parents' generation, of course, it was the Second World War, and that goes for Canadians, Americans, Europeans, Asians. The Second World War was the dominant event of my parents' generation. And when the war ended, there was an incredible amount of rebuilding to do, and the people did. They rebuilt cities, they rebuilt countries, and went on to live wonderful lives. My generation, the big issue was pollution. I grew up in Toronto, close to the Don River. It was a cesspool. Of course, as a young boy, I thought that was great. We'd go down there with my buddies, and there'd be abandoned cars and old tires and washing machines, and the water was different colors depending which day you went down there and what was polluted. Today you go down there, and my mother still lives close by, so I go for a run there occasionally, and there's bike paths and greenery, and the water's clear and it's beautiful. And again, going back to my childhood, there was no shortage of fear mongers, of alarmists who were saying that acid rain was going to kill our lakes and our fish in our lakes, that we had CFCs, chlorofluorocarbons, and the ozone layer was going to be depleted. We had dioxin, we had DDT, we had all sorts of awful things. It was a bad time for pollution and for the environment. Yet you mention any of those things to children today, to the young generation,
They don't know.
They don't even know what it is. What's
No.
a CFC? What's the ozone layer? We don't even talk about it anymore. What's dioxin? We don't even talk about these things anymore because we solved them.
That's
So
right.
when it comes to climate change and the future of this country and the future of this planet, we're going to solve this. We have the current generation is the best educated generation that ever lived.
Yeah.
They have the most resources ever available to anybody. They have the best communication to share all this knowledge. We're going to solve this. We're going to get beyond climate change. They're going to lead long, happy lives in an even better world. It's time to turn the discussion from one of alarmism to one of optimism and one of a challenge and solutions. So let's change the mindset to one of being victims, to one of endless opportunity. There's so many things that can be done to improve this country and this world. Let's get at them. There's never been a better time. Boy, I'd love to be 20 again.
Bravo, Chris. Bravo. Well, maybe you can help mentor the 20s, though. And I know you do that. So keep up the great work, my friend.
I'm working with, speaking with a class at USC tomorrow, and I just say the youth are my favorite audience, and I'd also say my harshest critics. They don't hold any punches back, so it's a great discussion, and I also tell them just to keep their feet on the ground. Once you solve climate change, there's going to be another problem.
Another one.
So get
always
used to
something.
That's the way the world is.
That's
It's never
right.
a perfect place. It's always a bit better, but it's never a perfect place. So I don't know what the next problem will be, but once they solve climate change, there will be another one. So
There will. You're so right. It's like any other crisis. Even before coronavirus, there was other viruses. Now we need to think of, okay, be aware of what else could be coming and be ready for it.
Yeah. Well, this COVID one, I think, boy, if anybody saw this one coming in this scale and this speed, I certainly didn't speak with them, but it's been a wake-up call for all of us. And I think too, when I see all this criticism of the provincial or municipal or federal governments, and I say this completely nonpartisan, whatever party's in power, any part of the country, everybody's learning on the job when it comes to COVID. So to me, let's just shelve the criticism for a bit and start working to solve it and contain it, because everybody's learning on the job for this. No one saw this one coming.
No. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Chris. I really appreciate it. I knew you knew your message would be positive and optimistic.
Always a pleasure to speak with you.
Thanks so much. Everyone, that was Chris Slubicki. Check out his YouTube videos, and always positive, always optimistic. We have much to learn from him. Thanks so much for joining us on Cats Track. We'll see you next time.